Have you ever seen a ghost? Not the kind that rattles chains, but the kind that lives in the glowing screen of a phone at 2 in the morning. The night my world broke wasn't loud. It was silent, illuminated only by the cold blue light of my wife's unlocked phone. She was asleep, a picture of innocence, but her digital life was screaming a truth she'd tried to bury. I wasn't looking for anything, I swear. But there it was, an open app I'd never seen her use before. Spotify, and on it, a playlist curated with a sickening intimacy. It was called Future Forever Together. The mystery wasn't just the title, it was the songs I'd never heard, the private jokes embedded in the track list, and the collaborator's name I didn't recognize. It was a story of a future I wasn't a part of. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. For 10 years, Amelia was my everything. We'd built a life in a high-rise overlooking Millennium Park in Chicago. Our apartment was a testament to our shared dreams, filled with art from our travels and the comfortable silence of two people who knew each other's souls. Or so I thought. The change was subtle at first. She started guarding her phone like it was a state secret. Late-night work emergencies became frequent. When I'd try to get close, she'd flinch, a barely perceptible recoil. But for a man who had memorized her every breath, it was a gunshot in a library. She'd look at me, her eyes holding a new kind of coldness, a dismissive glint that made me feel small, pathetic. "You're being paranoid," she'd say, her voice dripping with a manufactured pity that was more insulting than anger. "We're fine. You need to relax." The Spotify playlist was my first real clue. The collaborator was a man named Julian. I did a quick search. He was a senior partner at the consulting firm she'd been working with. His profile picture was smug, a man who looked like he'd never lost at anything. The songs on their playlist were a roadmap of their affair. Our Booth by a band I'd never heard of, Miami Night's First Kiss. Each title was a dagger. They weren't just cheating, they were building a world on the ashes of ours, creating a soundtrack for my replacement. They felt untouchable. I saw them once, from across the street. They were at a small Italian place in the Gold Coast, laughing in a booth by the window. Amelia was touching his hand, her face lit up with a joy I hadn't seen in years. It was a casual, public display of ownership. They weren't hiding. They were daring the world to look, confident that I was too blind or too weak to see. That night, I broke. I sat on the floor of our walk-in closet, surrounded by her clothes, the scent of her perfume hanging in the air like a poison. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest until I couldn't breathe. I was a ghost in my own life, a silent observer to my own erasure. The love I had felt for her curdled into something else, something cold and hard and sharp. The tears stopped. My mind went quiet, and in that silence, a single clear thought emerged. They would not get away with this. My grief had burned away, leaving behind the steel of pure, unadulterated resolve. The game had changed. I was no longer the loving husband. I was the architect of her ruin. The first step was hiring the best private investigator in Chicago. He was a former cop with eyes that missed nothing. Within a week, I had a file thick with evidence. Photos of them checking into the peninsula, their hands intertwined. Receipts from lavish dinners I hadn't been invited to. But the real prize was the financial records. Amelia and Julian had a joint credit card. They were mingling their finances, planning a future built with my money, my stability. My lawyer, a shark named Marcus, looked at the file and gave a slow, predatory smile. "We've got her," he said. "She's not just an adulterer, she's a financial predator. We can destroy her." The trap was set. I played the part of the oblivious, slightly pathetic husband. I suggested a weekend trip to a spa, feigning a desire to reconnect. While she was getting a massage, I was at home, meticulously packing her belongings into boxes. I created a shared folder and uploaded everything. The photos, the credit card statements, the screenshots of the Spotify playlist with its damning title. Then I wrote 2 emails. The first was to her parents, her sister, and her closest friends. The subject line, "The Amelia, I'm sure you'll want to support." The second was to the managing partner and the head of HR at her firm, with the subject line, "Ethical breach and misuse of company resources. Julian Vance and Amelia Reed. I scheduled both emails to send at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, the exact moment her divorce papers would be served at the spa. The fallout was biblical. Her phone started exploding with calls while she was still in her robe. Her family, who had always adored her, were disgusted. Her friends were horrified. But the real blow came from her work. An affair was one thing, but the joint credit card with a senior partner, documented alongside trips billed as client meetings, was a catastrophic breach of ethics. Julian was suspended immediately, his career tattered. Amelia was fired. When she finally stumbled back to our apartment, she found her keycard deactivated. I was waiting in the lobby with the last of her boxers. She looked at me, her face a mask of disbelief and rage. "You ruined my life," she screamed. "No," I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. "You built a new one?" "I just sent the moving announcement. I see her sometimes, a fleeting glimpse on a crowded street. She looks smaller, diminished. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a haunted, hunted look. She lost her job, her reputation, and the respect of everyone who ever mattered to her. Julian, the smug partner, disappeared from her life the moment the scandal broke, a coward to the very end. I kept the apartment, the art, the life we were supposed to have, but the silence is different now. It's not comfortable anymore. It's just empty." I never listened to that playlist, but I still remember the title, A Monument to a Future That Was Never Meant to Be. The quietest moments are the ones that scream the loudest. The end.